Hello, dear listener. Tonight, I invite you to settle into the quiet of your evening. Perhaps you're tucked under a soft blanket, eyes growing heavy, limbs releasing tension. If it feels right, gently close them now and let your breath slow. In this calm space, we will journey together gently, without hurry. Our tale tonight is titled The Diet of Worms, not the famous declaration, but another, far gentler Worms, an ancient cattle-herding settlement hidden in the rolling, mist-wreathed hills of medieval Europe. In its fields and meadows, life sprawled out in tranquil rhythms. Sunrise milking, midday grazing, twilight tending. We'll walk along its quiet riverbanks, peer into its wooden barns, listen for the lowing of cattle at dusk. The aim is soft immersion, a space where history becomes a gentle lullaby. Then, we'll follow the settlers' hands as they weave cloth, raise livestock, and share simple hearth-born meals. Finally, we'll close our journey under a cold winter sky, nestled by firelight, whispering goodnight to the life of Worms. No thunderous proclamations or royal edicts, only centuries of everyday human life carried out with quiet purpose. We'll move at a measured pace, savoring each detail, the temperature of water in a wooden trough, the soft creak of a cottage door at dusk, the faint aroma of smoked cheese in a loft. Let the soft pastels of dawn fill your mind's eye, and breathe out, letting all excess fade away, one quiet moment at a time. All of these are invitations to drift deeper into quiet. Over the next chapters, we'll meander through the seasons, soaking in the slow cadence of a medieval agrarian life. So as you listen, I encourage you, let your breathing match the slow movement of time we'll explore. You might begin to feel the room dim, your mind drifting. If sleep finds you in the middle, that's the perfect moment. But if you remain with me, together we'll listen for the small, tender histories hidden in midday flocks and evening chores. We'll begin with the early light of spring in Worms, watching as calves are born and fields grow wet with warming rains. There is no rush. Now, gently, we turn our attention to the first waking light of Worms. As the sky begins to brighten in the softest shades of dawn-pale lavender giving way to a gentle rose, you might imagine yourself standing just outside a low wooden farmhouse of Worms. The air holds a delicate chill, still lingering from the night, yet threaded with the promise of warmth. In the distance, faint shapes move in the fields cattle, returning from their evening rest, now grazing quietly. The gentle lowing of a calf, newly born and seeking nourishment, folds into the early morning light as though speaking your name in comfort. This is where our journey begins, breathing in the soft stillness, letting it settle over your shoulders like a well-worn cloak. With every breath you take, feel the world slowing. There is no urgency here, no deadlines or demands, only the soft orchestration of life awakening. You may sense dew-laden grass beneath your feet, each blade trembling ever so slightly, holding tiny beads of pale light like a necklace strewn across the ground. The distant stream, half frozen still, murmurs over smooth stones, its water readying to run free as the sun climbs. In these hours, Worms hums not with busyness, but with life's quiet resilience. A small group of villagers stirs, stepping out of timber-framed homes whose walls are woven from wattle and daub. The early risers are gentle in their movements, barefoot on straw-strewn floors, voices low, almost echoing the hush of dawn. Torches or rudimentary candles would have flickered through the window, but as day breaks, those soften to nothing. Among them is the village herdsman, wrapped in a coarse wool cloak still damp from the night, leading his cattle by breadth of pasture. With a soft croon, he guides them toward the wooden troughs that will hold their fresh spring water. The cattle amble forward, each hoof set deliberate, each breath steady, exhaling little clouds of mist that drift with the morning air. In that trough dwells water drawn from the nearby spring, cool and clear. The herdsman tilts a long wooden dipper, measuring the first offerings for the cattle. As the animals lean in to drink, the trough's soft lapping sounds offer a background rhythm steady and calm, like your own heart's whispering. The herdsman stands quietly, taking in the simple satisfaction of their first nourishment. In medieval times, cattle were precious. They supplied milk, butter, cheese, and even strength to pull plows later in the year. Between April and September, each cow would be milked twice daily, morning and evening tireless contributors to village life. Now at dawn, some of those cows may pensively offer the first milk of spring. Thick, warming, and pale, it glimmers under the weak light. You listen to the soft shuffle of straw as a calf, still slick with birth fluids, nudges its mother's flank. With tentative steps, it searches for her udder. The world for this newborn is vast and unknown, but guided, coaxed by ancient instinct and the unspoken assurance of its mother's presence. The herdsman may speak in low tones, gentle encouragement, as he makes sure the calf is steady and finds its first nourishment. This early, sacred rite of passage life entering the world unfolds quietly, with no fanfare, but with profound reverence. The temperature eases upward as the sun peaks just above the horizon. Golden rays begin to gild fence posts and field edges. Dew evaporates from the grass in silent wisps, evaporating like breath from a sleeping child. Somewhere behind the barns, the village midwife arrives, carrying a simple wooden bucket warmed by the fire. Spring births in Worms aren't limited to livestock. Occasionally, a human infant greets the world this season as well. Perhaps today she visits a fair mouse where a woman labors quietly, breathing with measured steadiness. The midwife offers reassurance, her hands practiced and calm, her voice a timeless lullaby that soothes both mother and child. In this moment, the boundary between human and animal life blurs into a shared miracle of dawn. A shaft of light moves across the barn's interior, where the warm smell of straw and hay mingles with lingering fragrances of yesterday's chores. A young apprentice or helper may be easing a few cows from the stables, sweeping aside damp bedding, guiding them into the stable courtyard. Overhead, swallows flit in and out of exposed rafter ends, already tending nests on summer's behalf. Their calls are sharp and sweet, yet unobtrusive. Each breath you take in this place brings with it a calm attentiveness colors, smells, sounds all weaving together to cradle your mind into tranquility. Beyond the confines of buildings, tender shoots of barley or oats lean in rows within the open fields. The three-field system, one planted with autumn wheat or rye, another with spring-sown legumes or barley. The third left fallow is the village's rhythm of. In Worms, perhaps the fallow field already sustains soft green of wild grasses, grazing herds gently trampling them. In others, slender shafts of barley reach toward the sky, still halting in height, yet resolute in their journey upward. You observe a peasant woman, dressed in muted linen with a woolen wool cloak slung over her shoulders, weaving along the path to the fields, carrying a willow basket. Inside are soft cloths, flannel to swaddle a calf or a newborn babe alike. She hums quietly an old folk song passed down through her family. Her steps are slow and purposeful, but not hurried. She knows the day's contours will shape themselves around morning routines. Milking, collecting eggs, tending goat pens, and their own children. There is intimacy in these rhythms, shared labor, shared nourishment, shared breath. As you listen to her hum, imagine the faint tinny voice mingling with the distant hooves in soft harmony. A common land boundary lies en route, and there the communal sheep may graze. Villagers take turns guiding their flocks, keeping watch over lambs that, in spring's gentleness, gambol and frolic in bright discovery. The shepherd pauses, leaning on a crooked staff, scanning for any stray bleat or hesitant lamb. He pats the nearest away with his free hand, whispering reassurance, tasting the calm horizon in his breath. The scene is neither grand nor epic, but wholly sufficient a timeless portrait of pastoral care. Inside the village manor, a simple wood-framed building with thatch roof and rough-hewn beams, an older peasant fires up the communal oven. Outside, flour dust dances in the early light as she pours mixed grains into wide bowls, preparing dough for shallow holes of water. Salt and yeasty sponge absorb into coarse rye and barley meal. Bread in Worms is often dark and heavy, dense with sustenance. Yet when straight from the oven, its aroma is primal and comforting. The first loaves will be turned around in the hearth by midday. In the quiet of the morning, the tendrils of smoke spiral toward the rafters, diffusing into the rafters' grain wood, sealing the comforting smell into every corner. On the outskirts, a small medicinal garden lies walled in with simple timber fencing. Early herbs, yarrow, chamomile, feverfew, plantain show, pale flowers, or fresh leaves. Their scent is a subtle green balm upon the air. The village healer, perhaps a wise woman of middle years, moves among them with a specially carved wooden stick. She inspects each growth, whispering names under her breath. Not yet time for harvesting. She touches petals gently and breathes in their promise. In silence, she honors centuries of tradition, knowing each herb's use and its connection to calf or child, fever or bruise. As the sun ascends higher, its warmth becomes more tangible. Soft shadows retreat from wooden beams and fence posts. Indoored voices emerge. The morning prayer at the local church, a small stone building standing modestly at the heart of Worms. Children's voices, clean and bright, begin cadence in Latin words. Their voices carry outward through narrow shuttered windows, joining human world and animal world in shared awakening. These prayers echo the village's faith, its ritual acknowledgement of dawn's gift and the cycles that spring brings. Returning to the barn, the calves have settled after their first meal. Their mothers lie close, eyes half shut, content. Between them, light filters through wide planked doors, casting warm rectangles across straw-littered floors. The herdsman sets down a metal bucket, wiping his weathered cuff across his forehead. He steps back, observing measure of contentment present in his stance. In medieval records, herdsmen were entrusted with not just feeding animals, but ensuring their futures, assisting births, preventing disease, guiding them from calf to weight, for market or milk for sustenance. In quiet reflection, he breathes in deeply earthy, hay-scented air filling his lungs. You may find your own breath matches his. Slow, steady, enough. Our senses now rest together in this stillness. Time is no longer measured by hours, but by sequences of gentle acts. Water drawn, cattle fed, bread baked, herbs inspected. No clamor penetrates. Only the measured beat of life continues. Any tension we hold in our limbs or mind softens, dissolving into the shared calm of warmth at spring's dawn. If you're drifting towards sleep, that's exactly right. Each soft sound, the lowing, the birds overhead, the shuffling hooves, is an invitation to release burdens. Let your eyelids descend as naturally as dawn erasing night, allowing the village's rhythms to cradle your mind home. Stay here a little longer, feel how the warmth of the rising sun kisses wooden beams. Notice how the trough overflows a moment before the herdsman smooths its edge. Sense the calf rising to find its mother's warmth again. These are small miracles, mundane yet define life's tender insistence in every season's turn. And so, as dawn settles fully over Worms, breathe in once more. Slow, capacious, effortless. Let the world soften around you, and trust that these simple stories milk in buckets, calves at knees. Bread baking low can slow carry you deeper into calm. The field songs, the herdsman's watch, the whisper of midwives and healers, all blend into a gentle lullaby for your soul. Stay with these sounds until sleep finds you, or until chapter 2 begins at its own pace. But for now, allow the dawn of spring in Worms to be the last thing on your mind as you drift slowly away. In the soft hush of early morning, when dew still gleams on wooden shingles and birds stir in half-dreams, the village center comes quietly to life. A few wisps of smoke drift from humble chimneys. Lanterns glow behind shuttered windows, and the soft clopping of hooves announces the morning milk cart. Villagers move slowly, deliberately, their footsteps measured on well-worn paths of packed earth. The air carries a gentle echo of damp hay, a faint sweetness that lingers in the chest. It is in this gentle breathing of dawn that the true heart of the village reveals itself, a place of steady rhythms, soft gestures, communal care. As the mist lifts, you might see the thatched roofs of clover-zone cottages, clustered around a central green where the church tower casts long, curved shadows. A few hens wander near the trough, scratching at stray grains. Children, still yawning, accompany their mothers to fetch fresh water in new wood buckets. The wheel of the village well turns with a soft creak, its rope coarse against small hands. Each bucket lifted brings a tiny ripple through the placid courtyard. The world seems to sleep, but for these faint disturbances. Within the cottages, the hearth is lit. A low fire, glowing beneath blackened beams, warms the stones of the hearth. Earthenware pots are arranged around coals, diaries of warmth and sustenance. A woman, clad in homespun wool, sifts flour into a tankard of cool water, pausing to inhale its dust-sweet aroma. Her hands move in gentle cycles, kneading, pausing, shaping. Nearby, a small wooden cradle sways as a babe stirs, lulled by the distant ring of a cowbell. Outside, the stable door opens with a soft groan. A farmhand, perhaps the oldest son's apprentice, ushers the heifers forward. They step with soft confidence onto packed clay, their breath misting in the cool air. As they file toward the morning pasture, the farmer follows, garbed in a coat of thick linen, mud-spattered leggings, and simple shoes that conform to the soles of his feet. In his calloused hands lies the leather bucket for milking. He plants his stool amid the lowing cows and begins the methodical task, each teat producing a warm arc of milk, a sound like gentle rain on a tin roof. Milking in the open field is unhurried, a meditation in itself. The open field system that surrounds the village is divided into long, narrow strips, scattered in gentle patchwork across high green ridges and low furrows. The farmer's strips are the familiar ones. One near the wood, where the soil warms fastest in spring, another by the brook, where grasses are thickest in summer's heat. Though scattered, they are held together by shared labor and cautious cooperation. In the silence, the hum of bees drifts upward from clover blooms, punctuating the rhythm of teat and bucket. At midday, the central green becomes a place of gathering not for proclamations or celebrations, but for soft conversation. A group of women exchange cured herbs and tips on keeping cloth from stretching in the damp. A small boy offers fresh eggs to a neighbor in exchange for a handful of barley. A pair of elderly men sit on a bench carved from a felled oak, discussing the shift in weather and the promise it might bring for the coming harvest. Voices are low, edged with quiet consideration, as though they speak to the earth as much as to each other. Near the church, the tithe barn stands tall and robust, its beams worn smooth by hands passing grain through its open doors. A slow procession of villagers enters with sacks on their shoulders. The wood of the barn smells warmly of sun-bleached straw and kernels of ripe wheat. A stoop-shouldered man sets down his burden, a pale, seed-filled sack, and nods, relief soft in his eyes. Another woman arranges vessels of apple oil along the wooden ledge. Each contributes a tenth of her yield, an ancient practice of sharing that is measured in hushed solemnity. No grandstanding here, only the shared acknowledgement of belonging to this small patchwork of fields and families. In the smaller yards, near humble croft gardens, families bend over rows of peas and beans. Their hands, dark with soil, move deliberately, turning earth, dropping seeds, closing the ground with care. The seasonal rotary of planting, weeding, and harvesting brings families close to the soil, tied to its quiet generosity. A child crouches beside a young goose, watching it peck at clover. The squawk of the gosling is a gentle punctuation in the otherwise muted morning chorus. Nearby stands a simple loom, wooden and framed by two posts. A woman weaves pale linen threads into strips of cloth, the shuttle gliding back and forth in rhythm with her breathing. In medieval villages, cloth making is as much a part of home as hearth and stable. Every family tends flax or raises sheep, and the soft art of fibers turning brings the domestic world full circle. Each pass of warp and weft is a soft promise of warmth for the next child's cloak or a neighbor's trade. Inside one cottage, you might hear the hiss of simmering broth. What began as skimmed milk and grain now bubbles with roots pulled at dawn turnips, leeks, onions brown and translucent in the glowing light. Cheese rests on boards nearby, formed by hand and pressed overnight. Once fresh milk is strained into curds, soaked in cloth and stretched into simple rounds. The scent of sour whey lingers in the dim corner. Cheese is a daily ritual and a reminder of the hands that coaxed it from raw milk. Not far away, blacksmithing begins in gentle clatters. A small forge, warmed by charcoal, stands near the edge of the green. Sparks flicker like fireflies as a smith hammers a nail for a neighbor's door hinge. Each tap carries a hollow resonance that drifts through the courtyard. The smith's face glows by reflected flame, but his manner is calm, each stroke measured, each tool turned with ease. Village life is held together in such small acts: mended shoes, sharpened plow blades, simple keys for wooden chests. Around midday, the church bell emits a soft toll, just enough to pause the village in gentle acknowledgement. It rings out slowly, marking the hour for midday bread. Villagers pause in their tasks, fold hands for a quiet blessing, and share a loaf formed 2 days prior in coarse rye dough. Bread is exchanged generously, one family's surplus offered to another. Each loaf resonates with the communal labor of milling and baking, a quiet testament to interdependence. On the edge of the green, a cobbler sits cross-legged, his leather scraps spread around him. Each stitch is careful, nuanced. He makes simple sandals, soft-soled for the summer's warmth. His leather is coarse but supple, his nails small, hammered with soft precision. As he works, he hums in low tones, the melody blending with the creak of wagon wheels and the distant lowing of cattle being driven back from the pasture. Throughout the afternoon, a hush returns. Some return to fields for weeding or to tend fences. Others gather firewood beyond the boundary, where coppice trees spring green from stumps. The forest edge is a place of shaded calm, birdsong muted beneath fern fronds. Deer leave tracks in muddy hollows near the woodline. A woman gathers blackberries in her apron, counting soft berries that ripen slowly in the dappled sun. Still, in the quieter yards, children play with carved wooden toys. Tiny horses and carts, all punctuated by their soft laughter. A goat kid skips between them, its bleat a shy punctuation. They chase one another between drying racks of linen and small makeshift swings hung from door frames. Their game is unhurried, a simple echo of the surrounding peace. As afternoon deepens, the church bell tolls once more, signaling the end of communal labor and the slow drawing toward evening. The farmers lead back their carts of hay. The village gathers for a shared drink of small beer lightly fermented, just warm enough to soothe a dusty throat. Dogs lie by hearths, twitching in slumber, while cats weave between legs, seeking the warmth of gathered bodies. In one cottage, a young couple share potatoes roasted near embers. Their conversation is soft, a sigh of relief, a note of gratitude, a plan to tend small spring onions in the next week. Outside, the sky turns pale gold, then dusky purple, and voices slow to match the slow dimming light. As dusk deepens, villagers drift to the green once more, sitting on rough benches as lanterns of tallow flicker. A fiddler sits in the corner, bow moving deftly over strings, playing a simple tune, but it is not a dance song. Instead, it is slow, reflective, and comforting in its familiarity. The flicker of candlelight and the soft music weave a soothing lullaby. Common tales are shared stories not of dragons or heroes, but of a neighbor's lost lamb, or a distant cousin's health returning in time for spring planting. There is empathy in each syllable, a closeness rendered in shared echoes. Laughter is quiet, words are weighted with warmth. Soon the fiddler's notes taper, meeting the evening's hush. One by one, households dim their hearths. Smoke drifts thin and gentle toward the sky. Doors are closed slowly, shutters drawn. The village sleeps gently under starlit calm, the church tower a silent witness. In the hush, the heart of the village beats softly, tender and enduring. And you, dear listener, may feel your own breath slow, matching that rhythm. There is nothing to chase, nothing to prove. Only the quiet comfort of being, of witnessing this small world winding to its evening rest. Let your eyelids feel heavy. Let your thoughts settle like dust on a still shelf. The heart of the village beats in quiet union with yours. The first soft warmth of high summer drifts across the meadows as sunlight filters through a delicate haze, painting the tall grasses of worms with liquid gold. In these fields, the villagers rise early, before the sun fully awakens, drawn by the hush of daybreak and the promise of steady, gentle labor. It is a time of slow anticipation, a time when the world seems to linger in dawn's quiet grace before the full heat settles. Under this stillness, the moisture of morning dew clings to each blade of hay like tiny lanterns, and you can feel the day stretching ahead, measured by each thoughtful breath we take, side by side with the land. Along the edges of the fields, a mosaic of crops unfolds. Wheat swaying in rhythmic waves, barley's slender stalks bending towards the earth, and oats rippling like distant ocean currents. Interspersed between these golden seas are patches of legumes, peas and beans, climbing their simple supports, nodding gently as if listening to a breeze-born lullaby. This is the medieval three-field system in motion. One field ripening under long summer days, another resting or being tilled, and a third bearing the rich bounty of interplanted legumes, all taking turns in the dance that sustains both soil and soul. In this cycle, nothing is wasted, and every shift of planting holds the promise of renewal. Shepherds guide their flocks to shaded pastures, stepping quietly across dewy grass so as not to startle the gentle animals. The sheep follow in a muted procession, their fleeces brushing against the greenery, nibbling tender leaves and summer's first shoots. By midsummer, these days are punctuated by sheep shearing festivals, a time to gently cleanse the coats, wash wool in nearby streams, and prepare fleeces for market, yet always with unhurried attention and care. In Worms, such gatherings are small, communal affairs quietly joyous rather than raucous voices speaking softly over steaming buckets of warm water, the sound of shears tracing familiar arcs through wool. Meanwhile, further along the fields, grasses are taken down in deliberate swaths to feed the livestock over the cooler months. This hay cutting usually begins in June or July, just after Midsummer's festival of St. John's Day, the old customs lingering in the air, even as tongues tell little tales around the fire, and children chase flickering sparks in the twilight fields. Work crews move slowly, methodically, scythes tracing arcs that cut clean lines across the meadow, toppled grasses resting in neat rows, waiting for the afternoon sun to dry them. Women and older children gather delicate blooms yarrow, clover, wild carrot, their soft hands weaving floral scents into loose bundles woven beside the mown grass. This gentle choreography extends beyond harvesting. Midday brings respite and reflection. Baskets are opened to share small lunches of coarse bread, fresh cheese, cooled water, and olives preserved from spring's gathering. Every bite is parceled with gratitude. A moment of shared softness beneath the shade of a solitary oak becomes a sudden hush among the workers. A breeze rustles through leaves, and far-off sheep bells respond in kind, echoing the invisible heartbeat of the fields. In Worms, even midday rest is a meditation, punctuated by breath and the slow rhythm of the world. As the hours advance, movement returns bales of hay rolled with communal effort, horses and oxen pulling wooden carts to central haystacks near the barns. Each step is intentional, honoring the labor and the land. These carts creak softly, their wheels pressed into sun-warmed ruts, and each animal's breath comes in warm puffs visible against the golden shimmer of late afternoon. The village blacksmith, near the barn door, hammers gently to repair wagon pieces, the sound distant and rhythmic, a steady metronome to the field's slower pulse. Beyond the hay meadows lie the cornfields. When July deepens, they yield their ripening wealth. Men and women, knees brushing frosted straw, bend to the wheat and barley with sickles and scythes. They work side by side, each movement calm and practiced. No rush, only presence. One hand gathers golden stalks, the other swings the sickle, and the air is thick with soft dust and the whisper of cut grain. Sheaves are bound deliberately, much like the hay earlier, and carried lightly to nearby sheaf stacks, reflections of human care in every angled bundle. This harvest is communal, not just a job, but a joint breath. Workers come from neighboring villages, quietly joining the farmers of Worms, and sometimes children wander close, receiving an apple or a sip of sweet cider as thanks. There is no clamor here, only the soft rustle of grain and hushed conversation. On Lammas Day, a time when the new bread is baked and blessed, the first sheaf is carried to the churchyard. Its presence is unhurried, carried like a treasure, a small crown of ripened stalks to honor the field's long season. Behind these fields, tall barns stand sentinel, waiting to receive the harvest. In the late afternoon, families gather beneath their overhangs to stack, layer, and prepare hay and grain for storage. These spaces are redolent with the mingled aromas of fresh straw, cooling grain, and old wood, an olfactory lullaby of the land. As dusk approaches, women move boards to seal barn doors, kindling protection for what has been gathered. The sounds soften, the flap of shutters, the rustle of woolen shawls brushing against age-worn boards, concluding the day's work in gentle harmony. The animals, too, sense the shift as the sky reddens. Cattle, having grazed in distant pastures, slowly amble home, guided by lowing calves and shepherds' calls, barely louder than the breeze. Each hoof fall is measured. Each animal's presence is noted. At the barn, a milking ritual unfolds, hands coaxing udder, the soft plop of milk into wooden buckets. It is another rhythm of high summer, calm, nourishing, regular. Milk is skimmed for cheese, whey poured at the cottage door for pigs resting in the yard. All living beings human, bovine, porcine, are woven softly into the summer tapestry. The day retreats slowly, and with twilight comes a gentle gathering. On a grassy rise overlooking the fields, a quiet meal is shared. Bread, sweetened curd, fresh berries, a little honey if the hives have begun to hum. Conversation drifts. Memories of childhood summers or a father's smile. Nothing urgent, but enough to form the tender contours of belonging. The dusk air carries the soft, earthy scents, cut grass, cooling soil, the faint tang of milk. One by one, lights glow in cottage windows, simple hearth fires warming soothed limbs after a day spent in rhythm with the land. As night deepens, embers burn low, and villagers drift home. The final chorus of sheep bells recedes. The barns fall silent, still full of this season's careful gathering. Upstairs in the cottages, children lie close. Toddlers drift into dreams swaddled in straw's comfort. Outside, crickets begin their steady lament, joined by distant frog croaks around the sleepy riverbanks. The sky over Worms glows softly. No candles compete with the silent stars, and the hush of fields under moonbeams is absolute. In these hush hours, the village rests in the afterglow of summer's harvest, carrying its quiet victories into sleeping minds. The fields lie mown, the stacks stand mindful sentries, and in the barns, the hay rests, bearing the gentle fruits of long days. The rhythms of high summer, once active, now relax into a contented stillness as each body and each plate of labor rests alongside the land. Even as midnight deepens, a single barn cat pads softly along timber beams, hunting a late mouse. Her steps are silent, measured, She is part of the village's living hush. Beyond, the distant howl of a lone jackal fades as it moves on, and peace settles like cool mist across the meadow. In that moment, worms breathe as one, each life slowing in union with fields, sky, and earth held in summer's loving arms. And while the fields sleep, so too may you, dear listener, held by the gentle pattern of days spent under golden sky. Let your breath lengthen, drifting like the fields drifting into night. In this soft closive chapter, let the echo of scythes resting, cattle lowing, barns breathing, carry you deeper into calm. High summer rests, but its rhythmic heartbeat remains, and with it, the land and its people rest, and so too may you. The air in Worms shifts as autumn slips in. Dawn arrives with a gentler light than summer's sharp sun, its glow diffuse, pale gold shading the entire sky. Leaves tremble in the soft breeze, their edges kissed by the first touch of bronze and russet. Across the open fields long, slender strips remnants of the three-field rotation system embraced by the villagers lie heavy with grain, their heads nodding thoughtfully in the crisp morning air. Each peasant family has gathered in small clusters, scythes in hand, beginning the rhythmic arc of cutting barley and oats. There is no rush, no clamor, just the steady whisper of blades singing against stalks and the hush of feet moving on soft earth beneath. In the heart of the fields, the communal nature of harvest emerges softly. One family tends to their allocated strips. Elsewhere, neighbors pause to lend hands, adjusting belts, exchanging slow smiles, voices low and measured. Occasionally, the plod of oxen punctuates the quiet when a loaded cart rumbles down muddy lanes, an animal sure-footed. Accustomed to steady labors, unhurried is the work itself. After the first bundles are tied thick sheaves, bound with simple cords, a child, small and barefoot, slips through the stacks carrying grasses for the animals, their breath visible in the cool air. These grasses, carefully dried, will feed cattle and sheep through the winter's lean hush. As the sun climbs, a soft warmth spreads, stirring color into cheeks of humans and ripening fruit alike. Nearby, apple trees in the garden sheds yield their bounty, branches sagging beneath the weight of late-season fruit. Long-handled ladders invite gentle ascent, and baskets begin to fill. Golden apples, firm-skinned pears, each placed with quiet care. The caretakers of each homestead move with familiarity, knowing how to judge ripeness by feel, by scent, by the way a fruit yields to gentle pressure. When dusk arrives, these fruits will be transformed pressed for cider, stored in cool cellars, or simmered slowly with honey, their sweetness preserving a taste of warmth for colder days ahead. Harvesting grain continues into mid-morning. The air is faintly scented with earth and straw, a grounding aroma that seems to hush hurried thoughts. The bundles grow in neat stacks, torches of gold against the rich brown of soil. Each sheaf is carefully oriented grain heads upward, stalks aligned, so that later they may be set upright in stooks, arranged to dry in the fields, shaded from dew and able to breathe in the wind. The stooks stand in quiet rows, like silent sentinels holding the harvest safe. Inside each cottage, other preparations unfold with equal patience. Women and older children tend low hearth fires, stirring in heavy clay cauldrons filled with soupy porridge. Barley grains, beans from summer crops, slivers of preserved meat smoked in earlier days. A wedge of whey cheese, crafted from the morning's second milking, rests on a wooden board. The aroma of simmering broth mingles with the tang of flatbread, baking on a domed clay oven bread thick, slightly cracked on top, browned in soft patches. It is simple nourishment, rooted in earth and season. There is a lull in fieldwork from midday rest. Tools are stacked, cloths wiped, and hands washed in wooden troughs of cool water. In the shade of an old oak, families gather spread cloths, hold bowls of porridge, slices of cheese, chunks of turnip pickled earlier in the month. Conversation drifts in quiet tones. Weather predictions, the health of a neighbor's ox, or the thickness of the cider pressing. These gentle exchanges anchor the community, a soft bond woven by shared labor and mutual care. By afternoon, the milling of grain begins at the manor's communal mill. A steady grind echoes from the wheel turned by river waters. Grain from baskets is poured onto trays, ready to become flour. Children lean over the trough to taste the warm, sandy mixture. It is fine, soft, slightly sweet. The flour will feed ovens and stoop spread for daily meals. Cakes for feasts, pastries for gifts to traveling clergy. Further away, in the barn loft, flax harvested during late summer undergoes retting, softening its fibers in scattered water troughs. Then, on coarse wood beams, it is spread to dry. In cracks of light between beams, fine threads shimmer, threads that in colder months will be spun into linen. This cloth will clothe arms, cover bodies, and speak of community skill passed from one gentle hand to another. On the edge of fields, vegetables are carted in. Cabbage and kale, root crops like carrots and parsnips, and baskets of onion tops. All are stored for the bare months. Some are cut into lengthwise slivers and laid out on wooden planks to dry in the sun. Others are placed in barrels, layered in salt and pressed under weight. Preserved lunches for cold journeys and dark days. The milder afternoon light shifts toward bronze by the time the last workers rejoin the village. The final baskets are carried in grapes for juice, nuts for treading. From a hill's crest, a man stands and watches the village gather. The cattle graze on the summer residue, fattened, ready for creaming and butchering in weeks to come. The scent of the field, earthy and warm, drifts through his senses. He inhales deeply and exhales with satisfaction. Another year's yield safely gathered. As evening approaches, the community moves indoors. Fires are rekindled under iron cauldrons filled with cider from apples pressed earlier in the day. Freshly baked flatbread is torn in halves. Thick stews are ladled into wooden bowls, stew of barley, beans, salted pork, and root vegetables. Cheese is sliced into wedges. Butter, churned from the previous month's milk, spreads across bread. Tables hum softly with contentment, and voices faint calm offer blessings before meals. Then, hands come together in modest rituals. A cloth is folded, candles are lit. Families sit near the hearth, its coals glowing with patient warmth. The air grows cooler. Outside, the wind sighs through branches and rustles fallen leaves. From other homes, similar tables glow in windows. The village feels like a cluster of lanterns hanging in a dim landscape-each hearth, a pulse of light. After supper, elders speak in slow recollections tales of harvests past, of seasons softer or sterner. The rhythm is not one of drama, but of reflection. The years ebb and flow, the gift of labor well done, the promise of rest to come. A lullaby drifts. A woman cradles an infant, singing a tune set to the firelight. A child listens, eyes unfocused, on the brink of sleep. On tables, bread and cheese are covered. Wine or cider remains to be sipped on in quiet hours. The mill lies still. The fields, though emptied, seem satisfied, still holding warmth, depths awaiting colder whispers. Some villagers retreat to the church for evening prayer, doors close on gentler conversations, leaving hearths as quiet keepers of night. In the hush before midnight, rats stir in barns, cattle breathe rhythms in stalls, and servants move softly to stoke fires or mend nets. The wind taps the roof tiles. The village exhales. Each home rests, cradled in the harvest's gift. This time of preparation continues over the coming days. Grains must be threshed to separate kernels from stalks, with flails swung in time and tethered to rhythm. Each pound releases a cloud of chaff, which drifts like incense in the dim loft. Children might scamper beneath, catching stray ears, laughing in low tones. The kernels fall into sacks to be measured and taxed. Flour is set aside for trade, for baking, for seed next spring. Some grain is bartered at markets. Some stored, hidden beneath wood floors in woven bins. Cheese, salted and cured, is wrapped in cloth and placed on beams in cool chambers to mature. Pickled goods are sealed with wax, labeled with dates and initials. A neighbor brings grapes to press again, this time into wine, destined for festivals and solemn church feasts. The air in cellars is sweet and musty, ripe with promise. By candlelight, women gather to spin flax or wool. Their spindles whir in echo with hearth crackle. Soft threads stretch between fingers. The cloth they weave will warm someone's skin next winter. The motions are quiet and sure, a craft practiced for decades, passing hand to hand. The pace in Worms has shifted from outward labor to inward preservation. The harvest fields lie trimmed and waiting. The barn is full, the barnyard hushed. The work of winter will follow. But for now, there is a gentle completeness. Crops gathered, tasks aligned, home made ready for shorter days ahead. As nights lengthen, a soft calm envelops the village. Once bright, midday fields are edged in darkness. Candles flame in windows. Kitchens glow with fermenting pots. The communal oven sends gentle warmth into the evening air, wafting the scent of rye and barley. Protected by layers of community, by walls of hearth, by shared labor, by layers of cloth, the people of Worms rest in this moment of autumn's completion. And the seasonal cycle draws its circle, from sowing in spring, to tending in summer, to harvesting now, to preparation next. Each phase flows into the next, as quietly as a creek slipping around river stones. The rhythm of Worms is a song without sudden notes, a lullaby of seasons whispered slowly, gently across time. The world of Worms has fallen into stillness. Winter has arrived softly, like a hushed breath across the land. When morning light touches the frozen fields, it seems as though time itself slows, halting to admire the patterns etched in ice along the meadow grass and the quiet shimmer on the surface of the stream. Within the village, life continues slow and deliberate, yet there is a gentleness to every gesture, as if each movement is in harmony with the season's deeper lullaby. In the early hours before sunrise, a thin haze hovers above the barns and cottages. Smoke curls from each hearth, a quiet spiral that dissipates into the cold, gray sky. Villagers stir beneath woolen blankets on their straw mattresses, and soon, the soft shuffle of slippers across packed earth floors spreads, a measured murmur that gently wakes the household. Doors open, allowing the cold to drift in for a moment, then close again. Breeze and warmth meet, mingling before retreating. Children, groggy and quiet, find their way to the hearth's glow. Sitting close as the fire's last embers chase away frost. They wrap themselves in small wool scarves, and while they sit, a mother or grandmother touches their cheeks, guiding tiny hands to rub until pink with warmth. In these moments, children learn the old ways, how to sense the fire's life and how to coax it into a steady flame. Outside, the animals wait. The lowing of cows at the barn door echoes across the crisp yard. They lean in toward the warmth, their breath like steam in the air. Hands wrapped in woolen mittens push open heavy stall doors, and soft jingles rise as harness bells at their collars stir in greeting. Each movement a bucket's creak, the slide of footwear across wooden floorboards feels measured, intentional. Villagers move with care. In winter, nothing is hurried. Each footstep crunches in snow. Each bucket full of water is lifted slowly, mindful of fragile backs. Cold fingers grip tools, pitchforks, spade handles, rope ends, tools that feel different in winter. Colder, harder, heavier. And yet, they are familiar in the hands of those who use them daily. Simple chores, tending the hearth embers, checking coal levels, trimming candle wicks, become acts of care, of preserving warmth and light against the wintry dark. Inside the warm kitchen hall, pottage simmers in a large iron kettle hung above the hearth. The aroma is subtle yet comforting, an earth-sweet blend of onions, root vegetables, dried beans, and barley. Slivers of cheese melt into the broth, and a small ration of salted pork gives body and seasoning. Occasionally, a spoon is lifted, dipped into the steaming liquid, and tested by the woman stirring it. She tastes, nods, and adjusts the warmth of the fire with a pinch of salt. This slow communion with food is nourishment, ritual, and connection all at once, a reminder that even in winter, life sustains itself in rhythmic kindness. Through frosted window slats, weak pale light enters. These windows are unglazed, just thin wooden shutters, swung open when cooking needs ventilation, but staying closed against the chill. Inside, colors are subdued. Muted browns of wooden beams, pale straw on the floor, the dull gray of stone hearth, offset only by the bright sheens of polished copper kettles, or dark green of evergreen boughs hung for small festivals. It's serene, almost monochrome, until one notices the ember glow that warms every corner. In corners of the room, women sit together, spinning flax and wool by firelight. Their spindles turn slowly, and the rhythmic whir becomes part of the evening's soft soundtrack. Whispered conversation flows about weather, about the quality of wool this year, about distant relatives. Amid the quiet, one voice draws forth an old tale about Yule logs and the careful lighting of the winter fire. Another hums a simple melody, barely remembered but comforting all the same. The spinner's conversation is hushed, gentle, not chatter, but a companionable hush that feels like woven cloth itself. As they spin, laughter drifts soft and low, careful not to disturb the sleeping children not far off. In some homes, the spinning night is an honored tradition. The young women of the village gather, bringing their shawls and pillows, each ready to weave and chat for hours. Their voices rise and fall in careful cadences, folk rhymes, lullabies, quiet debates on who in the village makes the neatest yarn. There is respect for the spinner with the clearest voice, who sits nearest the hearth's glow and is called the cantorka. Her quiet presence brings harmony to the gathering. It is a time of simple joy, cushioned by flame and companionship, a reminder that even in winter's darkest days, community survives through shared warmth. Alongside spinning, children practice patterns for future mittens or stockings, while older hands mend torn cloaks or darn stockings with bright thread. A mother might sit alongside, teaching her daughter gentle stitches soapstone, marking the fabric, small scissors snipping stray threads. Through these acts, knowledge and care pass from generation to generation, stitch by stitch, breath by breath. Evening meal arrives quietly. The family sits on benches, straw covered with wool blankets thrown over knees. Spoons dip and stir. There is no clatter, no rush, just shared sustenance, shared warmth, shared breath. Talk flows slowly. Expectations for Candlemas, which lies ahead. When the small Yule log will burn, a tradition whispered through the ages. Whether the hearth coals seem bright enough to last 2 nights longer. In some houses, wood gathered through autumn may be scarce. Land agreements specify how many trees each family may take. There is communal respect around each log used. After supper comes story time by firelight. A grandfather leans forward, his face carved into the glow. He begins in a soft register, voice low and comforting. His tale is simple. Once, this land was untouched, and wise forebears spoke to trees and stones. Nothing moralistic or high drama, but memories of rivers that sang through spring thaw, leaves that whispered secrets when wind moved across them, hidden caves where foxes softened their paws. These tales have no villains, no battles, only reflections of the land, of seasons, of the quiet constancy that connects generations. Around him, children slowly drift asleep, leaning on benches or curled in laps, the spinning distance to allow this tender hush. By firelight, chairs are moved closer to the hearth. If the Yule log is used, it is guided onto the fire with ceremony. A small branch lit from last year's embers touches the new log. Sparks lift in gentle spirals. It glows and crackles. The family murmurs blessings, well-being, warmth, luck through winter. The Yule log burns slowly, its fire stretching through the evening. This quiet ritual is remembered through centuries, a marker of time, survival, communion with past and future. As the fire burns low, the household quiets further. Children are carried to sleeping loss on straw pallets, blankets tucked around them. A cradle rocks softly, a swaddled infant breathing in rhythm with the hearth. Parents settle at the edge of the loft, hands clasped, whispers of prayer for peace, for health, for morning warmth. In some homes, a small bowl of porridge and a spoon are left for the hearth's protection, an offering to unseen watchers of the night. Outside, only muffled night sounds persist, the occasional creak of beam, the wind tugging at shutters, the far-off call of an owl. Inside, light fades to embers. In one remaining chair by the hearth, a parent or elder sits, tracing the fire's soft glow, dropping kindling if needed, keeping the hearth alive just a moment longer. Perhaps a lullaby is hummed, a gentle farewell to the day. When the last glow has dimmed, the embers covered, doors fastened for the night, the final hush settles. The family, now bedded down, lies in the shared warmth. Even if they wake during the night, they hear not the bite of cold, but the soft echo of hearth memory, a presence that steadies sleep and dreams. It is a shared sense of enduring home. Winter nights in Vorms are long, yet they are never empty. They hold embered stories, slow breaths, shared warmth, the scent of drying herbs and pouring ale, the hush of spinning and the glow of Yule logs, the whisper of prayer, the promise of morning. In this winter round, Each action is a thread in a quiet tapestry, woven to carry life through the cold, to hold hope, to tether memory and future. And as the long night deepens, may your mind carry this gentle warmth. Let the hearth of warmth glow softly in your thoughts. Let each breath slow with the turning of time. Let the crackle of a Yule log burn within you. And when your own eyes close, know there is a blanket of community, ritual and care beneath you, ancient, continuous, enduring. As you find yourself wrapped once more in the hush of evening, imagine the valley of Worms bathed in the gentle glow of a hearth. The embers flicker low, casting warm hues across the worn wooden beams of the longhouse. You can almost feel the comforting heat, a soft reminder of simple presence and peaceful rest. Outside, the final breaths of a cool winter night drift through the shutters, pattering on the window panes like a tender lullaby. That sound so delicate invites a deep exhale, a gentle sigh of release from the cares of day. Let that sound carry you deeper into calm. Let every corner of your mind soften, as though all remains are now soothed by the promise of rest. Remember, the life we visited in Worms did not rush. Each footstep through its frosted paths was deliberate. Each gesture toward the cattle or the hearth was quiet. Each breath folded into the natural rhythm of the seasons. There was no urgency, only the slow unfolding of life, unhurried as the turning of the sun and moon above. You might picture a villager pulling a woolen cloak snug around their shoulders, their breath visible in the dim light. Or an elder smoothing down a calf's fur, murmuring a soft greeting before it drifts to sleep in the straw. Each small act held its own gentle reassurance that in these moments, everything is well and whole. Now, let's sit together by that hearth's edge. I'll pour a small cup of warm spiced ale, just a sip, fragrant with a hint of clove, though your own cup might be filled with tea or simply the quiet air around you. Let the warmth of that drink settle in your chest and spread through your limbs, easing any remaining tension. As the warmth seeps in, allow your eyelids to grow heavier. If your head tilts just slightly, it is okay. Here, in the soft cocoon of Worms, there is no right or wrong position for rest. Only the gentle unburdening of your day. The wooden floorboards creak just once, a welcome sound, not startling. It reminds us that every structure here breathes with history. Each plank worn smooth by countless footsteps, each knot in the beam, a tarnished echo of 1,000 quiet hearthside gatherings. And though centuries have passed, that same lullaby of creaking wood remains, but now it is a melody of comfort, not of caution. The windows are trimmed with frost, their crystalline edges catching the firelight like tiny stars. Each breath you exhale creates a momentary mist, ephemeral and peaceful. And in that luminous mist, you can almost see wisps of old stories-tales of midday grazing, of wool spun, of seeds sown, and bread baked. All told in the softest of voices, the voice of a community woven together through everyday simplicity. Let the hush grow deeper now. The night outside stretches wide and hushed. The cattle low one last time, settled in their stalls. Only the occasional soft crackle of hearth logs bears witness to the lingering day. And each crackle is a reminder that warmth persists, even as all else cools. Let your breathing slow further. Become steady as the turning earth below. Each inhale, each exhale, folds you deeper into this realm of stillness. Your muscles let go, your thoughts drift. No need for worry or thought. If slumber draws near, that is good. Drift ahead on the wings of these soft images, firelight, frosted glass, woolen cloaks. I'll whisper a few parting reflections, like a lullaby just before sleep. You have visited Worms in its most intimate moments, watched as the people there welcomed each season in melody. Spring's first calf, summer's long noontide, autumn's golden grain, winter's hush. And each moment was a gift of time offered in simplicity and gentle beauty. And that is the beauty of history, not the grand wars or mighty kings, but the small, unassuming acts of human life. The bending over a loom, the soft clink of milk pails, the shared bread and salt at dusk. All of these made the world turn quietly together. Now let the world return your gift, the gift of rest. Let the hush of Worms move from your imagination into your bones, into your breath, into the gentle depth of sleep. You have earned this quiet reprieve. So tonight, let go. Let your eyelids fall like dusk across the sky. Let your heart rest in the gentle geometry of seasons and hearth. And know that in the morning, whether you awaken in this room or another, you carry the warmth of this hearth with you, soft, abiding, full. Thank you, dear listener, for sharing this time. Thank you for your presence, your willingness to slow, your openness to rest. May your dreams be soft, like a woolen blanket on a winter's eve, and may your sleep be undisturbed as the silent sleeping village beneath the pale winter moon. And now, softly, tenderly, good night.